Maybe, maybe not. It depends. But one instance in particular, I started working with someone, and it was actually the office manager, took me aside and said, they've got me doing the books, they want me all these reconciliations, it's very detailed. I don't even reconcile my own checking account. I'm not good at this. And it was just like this light bulb moment for both of us of why do they have her doing it? She doesn't want it. She's completely uncomfortable. It's never done on time, which was some of why they had reached out to me. Why don't we have books on time? Well, here you go. The right person is not doing the right role.
Your business's success depends on relationships with customers, relationships with employees, and relationships with stakeholders. What do they all have in common? They're all human. Because no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Welcome to the Human Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Carl Ponton. Each week I'll bring you stories, insights, and practical advice from experts that you can apply to your growing company and daily life. I'm excited to connect today with Marika Ponton. She is a CPA, certified fraud examiner, and 3-time business owner who helps entrepreneurs stop leaking profit and start making smarter money moves. With over 15 years as an auditor and real-world experience running her own businesses, she's seen exactly where the money hides and how fast it can vanish without a strategy. Now, as a profitability coach, she helps owners, CEOs, and founders plug financial leaks, fix pricing, and build businesses that are profitable on purpose. She brings a judgment-free, real-world approach to numbers and cuts through the noise and gets results. Because once you see the story your numbers are telling, you can start writing the ending you actually want. Congrats on bringing a judgment-free, real-world approach to numbers, and welcome to the Human Connection Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Carl. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting, especially these days, with how money constrained so many business owners are feeling. What is the mindset shift around profits and cash flow and money that businesses need to be making right now?
Well, I think it's actually very appropriate for this podcast in particular. One of the biggest mindset shifts is not just thinking about your profits in your business as hard dollars and cents, but thinking about all of the things that go into making money. And a lot of those are the people. And people and their efficiencies, their happiness, their productivity, all goes into that profitability. So the mindset shift about thinking, how can we handle things differently, coming from the human side, is a big part of what I do in my coaching as well.
So, because it seems like in the last 20 years, all businesses have really seemed to care about or most of them care about is that the dollars and the balance sheet and being and increasing the bottom line growth, that sort of stuff, often at the expense of the people and the relationships and on like the human side of things. And that's led us to the situation we're in right now, where there's like people don't trust companies, and they're finding it harder and harder to grow because of all the corner cutting. So how do they go about shifting that mindset? What is some like a success story of how you've helped someone turn that corner and better understand what their real profit is?
Absolutely. I mean, I agree with all of that. That was a lot of my experience in public accounting. I mean, these big firms, they're just after growth, but no one was looking at the turnover of the people, which is a huge cost. And that taught me a lot, and something I bring into my coaching. With one client in particular, their bottom line was suffering, struggling, but top line was amazing. That's often what I see is revenue might be just fabulous, but then you get down into the guts of the financials, and that's where the mess happens. So with this particular client, what it was the right people were not in the right roles. And once you dig in and start saying, okay, what's this person's role? How does that reconcile to what they were hired for, even in the basic job description? What has transformed and what are they doing now? With one particular instance in that company, literally someone was not, it was like they were in a totally different role than what they were hired for, and those were not their skills. So think about when you're paying that person to do things that are not their skills. What does that do to bottom line? I mean, you'd hope sometimes that you could get something good out of it. But looking at those types of things and making sure that the right people are in the right seats, and if they're not, making moves to make it happen, to get the right people in the right seats, it's a huge, huge transformation for bottom line.
Yeah, I imagine with how much companies are looking at ways to make things more efficient and like systematized. If you can have a great tools and all the processes and systems, but if there's not the right person in the seat trying to do it, it doesn't have the right skills, or it doesn't enjoy it, doesn't find it fulfilling, it's gonna be a very different experience and different result than if you have the right person who, instead of being drained by those tasks, is now energized and excited and thriving. That comes across, especially because then that impacts especially if it's a client facing role, that impacts the client experience, how likely they are to renew and pay more and want to continue engaging with the business. So there's this cascading effect that I can see it having across the business and the balance sheets.
Absolutely. I mean, and here's one. This is like just came to my mind. It's relatively simplistic, but I actually see it all the time in the accounting function. There'll be an administrative support professional, and they might have, a few extra hours in the week that is not specifically filled with something. So the company has them doing the. And does this person have any skills to be doing bookkeeping? Maybe, maybe not. It depends. But one instance in particular, I started working with someone, and it was actually the office manager, took me aside and said, they've got me doing the books. They want me all these reconciliations. It's very detailed. I don't even reconcile my own checking account. I'm not good at this. And it was just like this light bulb moment for both of us of why do they have her doing it? She doesn't want it. She's completely uncomfortable. It's never done on time, which was some of why they had reached out to me. Why don't we have books on time? Well, here you go. The right person is not doing the right role. And she ultimately left because she felt so much stress and anxiety at the things they were putting on me. And I think that was the best thing. I mean, honestly, she's like, I want to do admin. I want to do client service. What I was hired for, not the books.
Yeah, I think I think it shows a lack of understanding of just what tasks, or like the nature of a specific task and who's the right fit for them. And it shows that leadership is kind of out of touch with their own team and where their strengths are, and don't really know the people at their own company that well. If they're just handing off something as important as bookkeeping to someone who's not a bookkeeper. And it seems like there's a complete breakdown between leadership and like whoever's in charge of hiring, or the people managers, or like and they don't really understand where their team's skill sets are and where those gaps are. And how big was that company, by the way? Was it a like smaller firm, or was it like a bigger company?
I would say there was probably, well, I mean, depending on your definition of it, I mean, there were probably 20 employees. So I guess small in some versions. But, that's enough we should have a professional bookkeeper. And, sometimes truly, like, I'm not saying, an office manager and admin can't do that. Some of them want to learn. They want more skills. They want to go do that. But just like you said, who's in charge, not necessarily, leadership, because sometimes they really aren't being leaders. But it's just, they're not even clear. They're just like, this person has 5 hours a week. They can do that task, that role. It's so important for our profitability and our business growth and it's a completeness.
Yeah, and that's the so what are some of the examples, like when you come in to help with a company with those sort of issues, what's like the first step? What's kind of if someone's saying, oh my gosh, I just realized I just handed my books to an admin and they're making that mistake. What is that like that? What can they do on a company-wide level to start fixing those mistakes so they're not having these sort of bottom line issues, even if the top level growth looks great?
Right. I mean, specifically on the accounting side, or in particular, what I do because of my background as an auditor, having seen so many companies in my specialty, different counties, I do a complete review and oversight of their financial reporting system. So in that particular lane, I'm great for that because I can go and say, hey, you've got this person in this who's in this software. Let's do a complete review so you know if these are the right things. So that's a great thing to have someone like me on board for. For other things, it all goes back to what we were just talking about before we started here, is the listening. Let's really start listening to what people are saying in their companies. Where are their gripes? Where are their successes? Someone has to listen to them. And that says a lot. And if that's not happening, get a coach, get some kind of professional or consultant to help you analyze those things. If that's not your skill at the top level as the leader, that's what all of us are here for, coaches and consultants. We have those skills. You need other people to help you be successful. Bring them in.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for having that outside perspective, and someone who can help hold you accountable for making these changes. Because when you're leading a business, there's so many other things on your plate, and you have all these priorities and other things that are pulling you in different directions. So having someone you can delegate to and trust that they know what they're doing, and then they're also, especially in that case, they're not beholden to you.
Right.
So they're gonna give you the straight, like, they're gonna tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Because if it was someone that was like working for you as an employee, that you're gonna have some bias to it, but having an outside consultant that can say like, hey, here's what you need to hear, whether you want to hear it or not, but this is what needs to happen for your business to succeed. That's really valuable, and the business owners or founders that are actually real leaders will welcome that, and the ones that resist it or don't want to hear it are probably just not good for the role, and it's going to be a uncomfortable downhill experience for them and their teams, because
That's correct.
Yeah.
Everything you just said is why I built this business, is the candid financial feedback. That is what business owners need. You don't need anyone to tell you that's great if it's not.
And I think it's something that, especially with like the financial issues, are like, it's harder to, or it's more uncomfortable to face those, because it's harder to kind of like reason those away as, oh, it's just like, there's like some more nebulous reasons why, like, or harder to quantify reasons why like marketing's not working or sales not working. But when you see just like your books are terrible, there's no excuse for that, because it's just about balancing things out and finding out where the money's going. If you don't know where it's going, then like that's such a foundational basic thing of getting a business to work, that there's no excuse for it. And that same kind of mindset of not tracking or not having an understanding of how the business is running, like having the wrong people in the wrong roles, or not listening to your teams, is in the past was seen as kind of like the sort of listening and empathy and understanding your team was seen as like a soft skill. But these days it's such a necessary skill for leaders that if they're not willing to build that muscle and maintain it, then it's basically just a death knell for business. It might take a while, but it's huge red flag.
I mean, I couldn't have said it better. Those are stronger words than I even could. I mean, that's a lot of going back to the profitability, the profit mindset transformation I do and I work through. It's that avoidance. Maybe they say, oh, I'm not a numbers person. I don't want to look at that. My accountant handles that. But then how are you making timely and appropriate decisions in the business? Just like you said, there's no excuse. If you're not a numbers person, that's okay. Let's get you some basic knowledge and education so that you can glance at things, pick out things that might jump out. You don't have to be deep diving. You do have accountants for that. But you want to have that still in your back pocket of understanding your financials because it brings you confidence. And confidence is what always goes back to a great leader. Being able to spot where those potential mishaps are and going, I don't know what to do about this, but I know who to talk to. That's leadership.
Yeah, and I think so I'm interested with because you're obviously your expertise is in the financials, and there's so many different like products and services and tools out there. What do you see the most common area that companies are kind of wasting money or kind of hemorrhaging money that they aren't necessarily realizing? Is it, because I imagine there's a lot of people look at the books and like, where can we save money and that without compromising like growth and stuff. So where do you see people like most often when they're finally look through their books, they realize, oh my gosh, we were wasting all this money and then we could have turned that tap off before we had lost it all?
Yep. I mean, I hate to say it, but the biggest one is in the future. And it's exactly what we started talking about. And it's the efficiency of what priorities are used and how they're managing it, how they're doing it, and getting feedback, but also looking at the success they're having in the role or not the success. I've worked with a number of different manufacturers, and when you start looking at, their efficiency on, products they're pumping out, based on what the budget was, what should this have taken? If no one's looking at that reconciliation, there can be full-blown FTEs, full-blown people that are not pulling their weight and are bringing down your bottom line. Even on your admin side, if the person is not coming through with what the job is, what you need from them, the inefficiencies just outweigh so many other things in the people side. The easier stuff is looking at, your utilities. Those you can easily look at, we have a mutual contact that does that and can go, hey, I can save you money here. I can save you money there. You should always be looking at those. But it's the people in their life roles. How is that being managed? And how are you looking at how that affects your financial statements? It's huge.
I think it's interesting with when you mentioned there about about the people not being in the right roles, but it's also, I think that there's a lot of, because companies aren't empowering their people or not leading properly, a lot of their employees might even be in the right role, but aren't necessarily putting as much effort or trying. So they're kind of like the quiet quitting phenomenon that's going on, where people aren't leaving, but they're not working as hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so the company's performance dips but there's not enough necessarily cause to get rid of an employee. But so if you want to get them to improve the performance, the best way to do that is to make sure that they're taking care of and actually investing in them and listening to them and showing that they're building that trust and that respect again. And it's something that I think is another layer of complexity, because you might have the right people in the right jobs, but they're just they don't feel inspired or motivated to put in as much effort as they could because they don't feel that support from leadership. And so it's a matter of leaders needing to take that first step and connecting with their teams more and listening more and inspiring their teams to perform at a higher level, because then you actually get the output. And again, that ripple effect through to from like the employee performance and experience to the client performance and experience leads to that higher bottom line growth than they're currently getting.
It's again very, very well said. And it's like, think about the things you've been chatting about here. None of these are like specific hard dollars and cents. You could say, oh, well, you could say, 50,000 on this, or 5,000 on this. It's the people. It really is the people. And the tone you set as a leader, manager, whatever, it all trickled down. With one client, I saw constant no-shows and cancellations on meetings. Last minute, look, things happen. We know that. But it was like pervasive. It was constant. And I just kept saying, man, like, how did this function? And then I saw the CEO do the same thing. And it was just like, well, there we go. It made all sense. It was like, that's okay at the top to do. So then everyone else comes up. Think about the lost productivity because of things like that. It sounds simple, but it really can go deep when you're not efficient. And my coaching, a lot of things I've heard, oh, well, you're just going to tell me to cut costs. Not necessarily. These are all things that are somewhat intended that we talk about to get into that profit, mindset and information. Look at all of the things and how you're operating, how you're presenting yourself, how you're having professionalism in your business. It all relates to profitability.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for connecting with me today, Marika. If you enjoyed this episode of the Human Connection podcast, please leave a review, and share it. If you'd like to connect with either of us, check out the links in the show notes. And remember, no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Happy connecting.